The Sharp Tank. No jumper. Sharpest, coolest podcast in the world. And today, got a good man in the building like myself, because I consider myself a good man.
All right.
Things that I've been through, Frank, you know. Mm-hmm. But we have, and I want to say this right, because I had to write this down, because I was like, man, this man comes with a lot of titles. You know, when you got titles, man, you got a WBECC.
I don't know about all of that. Just call me a good man, as you
No,
said.
man, you know, I got the co-director to the new series, Hip Hop Homicides, man. That's crazy right there, because I'm ready to catch that.
You ready to catch what?
I'm ready to catch them joints, man. I'm ready to catch, like, just that whole new series that y'all got coming on out, man.
Yeah.
Tell me what that was like, man, like with 50 Cent, just like working with that whole situation.
Yeah, so, I'm the producer, executive producer, showrunner of Hip Hop Homicides. It's the true crime 1-hour show that airs on WeTV every Thursdays and then re-airs on All Black on Mondays. It profiles like high-profile murders in hip-hop. We go through the situations, we investigate them. We also do a little bit of a biography. So it's like I do a show called Unsung, and it's kind of like Unsung meets a true crime show, like American Gangster, which I also do. Van Lathan is the host. 50 Cent came up with the show. You know, obviously 50 himself is a gunshot survivor and had, a lot of the deaths in hip-hop, unfortunately. And he knew Pop Smoke. Pop Smoke was, if you listen to Pop Smoke, he's like a baby 50 Cent to some extent. And so when Pop got murdered, I think that really affected 50 in a big way. And that he was just horrified. Number one, the dude was only 20 years old. And number two, he was suspicious about some of the circumstances that happened. So I think he hit up Mona Scott Young, who's the producer of Love and Hip Hop. And together, Mona was like, 50 said, hey, let's do a show about dead rappers. And she was like, what? But no, and then I took that concept and developed it and went out and shot it with Van Lathan. So we shot these 8 episodes, which are airing now. The first episode was Pop Smoke. We just did King Von. And tomorrow, we have Magnolia Shorty.
That's crazy, man, because I don't think anybody's even tapped into that yet. We got all these other shows on mysteries and cold cases and things like that, but I've noticed that when it comes to rappers, black men who rap, I feel like it kind of just, it has its little buzz through the community, and we talk about it and things like that, but it never, like, we don't ever see them trying to solve that true crime. You know what I'm saying? Like, just superly into it. Like, no, this is one we just got to figure out. I don't really see that. So to see somebody like yourself and others, especially Van Lathan, that's my partner right there. I love him. I actually did an interview with him a while back.
Okay.
Just to see you guys come together, man, that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal.
I think the thing that's important is that, a lot of times in law enforcement, I grew up in Oakland, California, and before I started doing this,
Shout out to Oakland.
Yeah, town business. And I was a reporter at the LA Times, and I worked at the Source. So I covered the murders of Tupac and Biggie in real life. I was really there at the hospital with, the Tupac situation and Biggie.
When that happened in Vegas?
Yep.
You was actually in the hospital?
I was at the hospital, yep. And when Big, all those Source magazine cover stories from the 90s, 95, 96, Biggie, Pac, Dre, I wrote all of those. So, I'm saying I've been tracking this for a while. So it took somebody like myself who actually had been on the front lines, and I think Van, who's a hip-hop, connoisseur.
Yes.
And I think it's important for people from the culture to go still tell stories about people from the culture, because a lot of times these people look at our culture from the outside. We telling you a story from the inside. So, yeah, man, it was a tough show to do, my brother. And obviously, the timing of it, which is really unfortunate with Takeoff and some of the other situations that's happened recently with PNB Rock. And, a lot of times, not that, I don't know if y'all can curse on here, but police is like,
You can.
We don't want to solve that. That's just another nigga dead. Why do we care? I don't think they really wanted to solve the murder of Tupac Shakur. No. Why? A black rapper talking about anti-police stuff? You think they want to solve that? No. So I think that we really wanted to try to make sure that Pop Smoke is a man, that Mo 3 or, XX Tentacion or somebody else we profile. I think in the media you only see one-dimensional portraits of these guys. They loud, they got guns, they wild, they deserved what happened to them. But these are fathers, cousins, sons. You know what I mean? These are real human beings. And so that's what I'm in it for, to make sure that our brothers and sisters get humanized.
That is some of the realest shit I ever heard. Like, just even for it, because you just hit it right on the head. Like, it's just another, to them, it's just another nigga dead that played the game. And yes, okay, people do make decisions. I get that part. But to just let it just go.
Right.
It's crazy to me because, like you said, these are fathers, these are uncles, these are sons. You know, these are people that had whole families that may have depended on them, just like basketball players, man. You know, when their life gets changed, it's the same thing for a rapper. He's gonna start taking care of his family. He makes sure his whole family can
He's the
eat.
breadwinner.
He's the breadwinner, man.
He's really looking out for all of these people, and I think one of the things about the show, which is deep, and because I was at the hospital when Tupac, as I mentioned, to see Afeni. I think you don't realize that the mothers in these situations, on every episode we did Pop Smoke, XXXTentacion, Mo 3, Soldier Slim, Magnolia Shorty, Chinks. I don't know if you're familiar with Chinks.
New York Cat, right?
New York Cat.
Yeah.
So we got to talk to all of the mothers, and some of these mothers are still in pain. FBG Duck, a rapper in Chicago, got killed like in
Broad daylight, downtown
right?
Chicago.
Yes, we went to where he got killed, and his mother has multiple kids of hers and got murdered. So a lot of times our communities, there's a collective trauma in hip hop right now. I think that it's unfortunate that we've gotten used to the grief as if this is supposed to be this way, but it's not. I don't need to be talking to 8 moms whose sons are 20 years old, 21 years old, at the peak of their thing. You finally made it, right? And then you become a target. I think the rapper now is the target. Back when I grew up in the mix, the rapper was celebrated. You know what I mean? He was like, "Oh man, I'm about to go see Big Daddy Kane. Oh wow, is that E40? Damn."
Well, I have to say this to you, for real, Frank, and I think about it. When I was growing up, I listened to drug dealers. These days, they're listening to drug users.
Correct.
So it's a very, very big difference in the demographic of what rap has even became overall.
Right.
And anything that's bad, if you feed it to a motherfucker long enough, it starts to get normalized.
Correct.
It starts to become normal, and I think that's for anybody. Just like you said, we get pushed into this corner, to where, what comes with rap? Guns, violence, jewelry, whatever. They classify it, man. They throw all these, the good things is the jewelry. The good things is the cars. But they don't let you know, man, this motherfucker might really have a problem with you just for you being you and pop your motherfucking ass.
And there's a lot of hate. And I one thing I discovered after doing this show, which I think, I said this a couple of times, the man that killed Tupac had a personal problem with Tupac, right? He had whatever beef they had. Biggie was situations that people might have known him. Whatever it was, police, Puff, Suge, whatever is connected. That man who shot PNB Rock walked into the middle of a restaurant, a Brosco's, in the middle of the day to take his chain, never met him, had no beef with him, no rap, nothing. There's a lot of clout chasing, a lot of just lack of respect for black life. And I think that that's the difference now than what was happening then.
I love these combos today.
These cats is just
keep going, bro.
Out of pocket, and I think as an OG, I'm like,
take your time.
They don't have no code, no ethic, and just you're gonna walk into a Roscoe's in the middle of the afternoon, and this man is eating with his woman and eating, some chicken and waffles, and murder him, and your daddy is waiting outside to take you in a car. That's problematic. That's a big problem, my brother.
What I feel like was sick is because it's back on, and this to piggyback what you said before, that where after a while gets normalized, right? Mm-hmm. It was crazy to hear that the people that were working in there and the people that were eating just kept eating their chicken. Black folks in there just kept eating their chicken. People just kept working.
I didn't know that.
It didn't. Yeah, they
That's
said
scandalous.
Nobody really made a move. To where it was oh my God, this is traumatic.
Well,
this
man's
on
that
the ground.
Roscoe's is in the hood, unfortunately.
And it is, but it's all been normalized.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? To where it's just like you said, that's normalizing it. Well, it's in the hood.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That's the first thing that
But I
comes
do
into your
think
mind.
I'd have to disagree in that we should not set the bar that low to think that that's okay.
Right. If he got popped if he got shot in a fucking Roscoe's in Beverly Hills, are we gonna say the same thing? Well, it was the area.
All I know, imagine if these pop stars were being killed like these rappers. Don't you think it would be a crisis in America? Once it became the opioids, then it became a problem. When it was crack and other drugs, it wasn't. Because you know why? Because black people and Latino, we was dying, right? But now once the white kids and the mainstream, whatever, racism is just reality of it. And I think, it's funny. Do you think that people put themselves in that situation by what we rap about and what we sing about? Should we be, if we ring about, murders and guns and, doing whatever, does that mean that we deserve that?
To answer this, is we sing about it. I feel like we sing about it or we chant about it because I feel like it's all chants, right? Raps is like chants, man. You can bring that shit into existence. Mm-hmm. We chant about it because it sells. Mm-hmm. It's what sells, man. Everybody's only gonna do what sells. They're not trying to be left out in the dark. So if me talking about popping this nigga on this street and then going to his house or his grandmama's house and shooting his grandmama's house up, gonna make me a millionaire tomorrow, that nigga's gonna talk about it.
Correct.
I've noticed that shit. Even if he would never do it, it still starts that fake beef. And I feel like anything that's fake can always turn back real.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So when I hear motherfucker, just even though he didn't mean it, I heard it in a song. I seen somebody come around somebody that I saw was he's really scared of this man. And then this man didn't do nothing, showed him mercy. The man went back and made a song about him. And shit like that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That gets just let off the just like it because it's for clout. I can say it. It's bad, crazy. Man.
And
it's
I will
bad.
say though too that one of the things that's different is the clout chasing, like an amount of young men and women on the internet with guns, and the fact that social media beef. Like I never, the '90s, I never heard of no internet beef, but motherfuckers can be beefing on the internet. NBA YoungBoy and the brother Young King Von, who we just profiled, their beef started online. Somebody was like, "Yo, NBA YoungBoy is whack," and then they went back and forth, and a girl is involved. It seems so petty to lose your life over just internet chatter to me. You know what I mean? Or you did this or you said that. It's so, wow,
Well, let's think about this. Back in the day, it was more of a word of mouth. Today, like everybody's got something to say so it don't get let go. It's like you gotta do something.
Right.
Or there's gonna be all these comments, people are gonna troll you, and it's a sense of harassment, right?
Right.
It's like, oh, you better do something. I knew you was a bitch. I knew you wasn't gonna do nothing.
Which is unfortunate.
That's what gets pressed. So now this person feels like when I see this person, I gotta do something. Versus a lot of situations, my man, can be talked through or communicated through, but people don't do that.
You hit the nail on the head. Is that one of the things that I discovered, not just doing hip hop and being hip hop for a minute, but just in black society in general.
Of course.
I did another show called Profile of the Black Man.
What was it about?
It was about stereotypes about black men. Black men are violent. They don't support their family, whatever. It just tackled the stereotypes. But there is a lack of conflict resolution skills in our community that when Takeoff got shot, they was beefing over a dice game, and allegedly one of the young boys just started popping off, and maybe that stray hit him or whatever, but we don't know how to talk through things. And not to say about other races are better, but you don't see my lawyer or my agent or people in, dealing with business. If they got beef, these folks, they go to court, right?
They go to courts.
They like,
that's that shit,
you
man.
could be my boy and we was in business and you did whatever. You might have did something to my wife. I don't care. But these folks don't go out and kill each other. So we don't have the ability. When King Von got killed, he saw Quando Rondo, a young boy, he had, one of NBA's young boys dudes, and had beef with, and immediately hit him, right? As soon as he hit him, he jumped out the car, they start scrapping, and the whole crew starts scrapping. And then one of Quando Rondo's boys shot King Von. That moment where he lost his temper and hit that brother cost him his life in real life, right? And so I don't know what else to do. When Tupac Shakur, who I love to death,
loved him to death too,
lost
brother.
his temper in that particular situation with the young man who everybody knows pretty much shot him. It had drastic consequences for him. Not shortly after that, he got killed. So what I'm saying is, how do we mitigate disagreements or beefs amongst us or whatever so that we can either, like old school, fight it out, or do we just talk it? I don't know, but there is a crisis where and a lot of these boys, they got guns, right? And they on drugs, they on lean. They off Percocets, they off Xannies, they doing whatever, they hyped up, they got weapons. You know what I mean? It's a volatile mix is what I'm trying to say. And so I'm about prevention, but I really don't know. Maybe you got an answer.
Well, I feel like it starts with what you just said, that chemical imbalance. Being on these things that are, man, this ain't weed and alcohol. I mean, shit, I know we tripped off weed and alcohol, motherfuckers. You can tell your uncle, man, watch your brown liquor.
Right.
Ease up on it some. You getting a little too loose. I can't really tell you what people are thinking. The ones that be on drugs like that, the heavy narcotics, I can't tell you that because I've never been on that.
Right.
I've never done those, so I don't know what really pushes some people just to, whether it's you're coming down and you just want to trip. I'm like, I've never watched so many people, especially rappers. I've never watched so many people with so much money want to stay in the bullshit. I've never understood that. I thought we were trying to get some money so we can get out and get on and get to a better fucking place.
Right.
It's like now we're just going to a better place.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
it's scary.
People, you make it and you want to be even more gangster. The point for me as a person who came from the hood is like, I want to get up out the hood. I'm not trying to go back. You know, no disrespect to Suge, but Suge was a middle class kid, and as soon as he got some bread, he tried to take it to the gangster when he should have been Barry Gordy instead of trying to be a thug. You know what I mean? And I think it's just unfortunate. I think for my show and other stuff that I've done, I'm hoping that we can increase the dialogue in our communities.
Do you feel like Tupac did that? And I'll give you an example. By with, you know, I mean, his parents were some powerful people. If it sound like, man, Black Panthers, you know, they had that, you know, that background on their back, and he would stand up, you know, and he would politic. And I love Tupac, bro, but I have to look at it. I have to play devil's advocate a little bit here because I'm like, okay, I love Pac to death. I've listened to every album he ever dropped, man, song for song, word for word. But then I start to think about it like he would push these politics, and I love that about him. That part of it I loved. I'd be like, man, he really standing up for us. But then I would see him go spit on people. Thug life. Fuck you. I'm jumping everybody. It's kill or be killed. Last motherfucker breathing. You know what I'm saying? Like he used to, he jumped on a whole different demographic with it to where it's like, you think them people was good? They couldn't wait for him to go.
Correct. Yeah.
It has to come to a point, man. Tupac should have been a lesson. There should have been a lesson in that, man. You know what I'm saying? And that's where the true blessing is found. He showed you, hey, man, when you really touch those roads, you gotta transition.
Correct.
You have to transition. And I want all my brothers to know that, man. When you feel that and you know that small, any-ass fucking window, it came to me. From what I've came from, my backgrounds, man, and me seeing that any-ass fucking window, you gotta jump through it and you gotta dumb your ass down. It's okay to be humble sometimes.
I like being a square. Like, you know, it's good. Like, you know, the point is you can't be in the streets and be in music. You gotta pick one. And 50 will tell you, you know, you could see his career trajectory. He almost got killed. And so I think he knew, let me transition. And you can't be in those places that you used to be, right? You can't be in those streets. You can't be in a situation where there's guns and girls and crazy shit that you know is going to happen. So I think that a lot of times we think we got to bring our hood with us. We got to stay in the street to be hard, to be whatever. You should be like, well, how can I become a senior citizen? That's your goal in life, is to be able to not die at 25. You know what I mean? Tupac Shakur was 25 years old. Christopher Wallace was 24 when he got murdered. Pop Smoke was only 20. XXXTentacion was 20 years old. I think Mo 3 was 28. These men didn't even make it to 30 years old. And it's sad, you know, but I think for me, I just want to keep encouraging and making sure that we tell our own stories, and just like you guys with your podcast and all of that. But there's shit is crazy, bro, on the street right now. Even me, I'm not in front of the camera, but I watch myself. You know, I was out in the club in Atlanta about a month ago, and I had got my little bill, and I had my drink in the bill, my food, and I set my drink down on the table. It was like a little booth. Motherfucker got it. He was like, "Hey, you put your drink on my table. You know, get your," you know, he just went off on me. And I was like, "Dude, I just want to sign the bill." I was like, "Man, what are you talking about?" And my first thought was like, "What?" And I almost went there, but I was like,
it's not where you're from, it's where you at.
Right. But I was like,
gotta always have that on the back of your mind.
And I was like, I'm in a foreign city. He might have something in the car, right? I don't know who's in here with him, right? And I got a lot to lose, right? Because I do what I do. He may not have shit to lose. So when you're in those situations, you got to just be careful. And I had the wisdom to do that, but sometimes other people don't have that wisdom. And I think our brothers and sisters just need to be smarter.
I've been there.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah.
I'm not victim. I am suspect to that because I've done that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? To where like, hold on, I don't really need to have myself because I've been hot-headed through shit. I don't like to be tested. I don't like. I think it's probably because I've been tested so much coming up through life as a youngster, to where I'm like, as I've gotten older, I'm like, man, I'm not getting tested even for the little bit. You know what I'm saying? But past the showrunner, director, things like that. For Frank, what was it like for you coming up, man? Because you seem like you got an interesting story just for you even understanding what's going on with society today. What was it like for you as a youngster?
Well, no, I mean, like I mentioned, I grew up in Oakland, California, the 70s, 80s. I saw Felix Mitchell, notorious drug dealer from Oakland. I saw Huey Newton and Bobby Seale in real life. I saw the Black Panther Party in my hood, you know. So I grew up in a city that had a really cultural legacy, Black power, Black, you know, militancy, but also had street life. Oakland is very street-oriented, obviously crimes and, you know, cracks and drugs. And it was a very bad time in the late 80s. I'm a little older than you, but, you know, we went through that late 80s, early 90s crack situation, and it decimated our community. So as much as I grew up in that, I was blessed because I had education. So I went to, Columbia and San Diego State, so I got degrees. So I'm like I'm a street cat with Hollywood game, and so I make sure that I can speak. I have a friend. I told him I speak white people, and so white people
exactly
whisper, white people whisper, and so it's just important to be able to have balance. So for me, I've always been about balance, and the way I actually got into telling, I'm a storyteller. People say I'm a producer, writer, whatever, but I really just tell stories. And so when I was a youngin', with the afro and the glasses, back in the early '80s when I was just trying to come of age, I got my first start telling stories. All of the D-boys and the gangsters in my hood couldn't write love letters for their ladies. So Tyrone be like, hey, I want a letter for Keisha. Tell her, how I feel. I'll be like, yeah, tell me how she look. What she do, blah, blah, blah. So I write their letter for them, and they give me a little 15, 20 bucks. I was caking.
Right there,
I was caking like 100, bucks.
Gotta hustle something.
Yeah, and so I would,
something.
they give it to the girl, and it was from them, even though I wrote it. So yeah, so that's how I got started, telling those stories. And television and film has always been my thing. And hip hop. I grew up around hip hop, and I've been blessed to have 30 years in it, from the Source to BT and all of that. So yeah, man, I'm a street cat, but Hollywood, at the same time, Hollywood gangster, as Nas said.
I feel like real ones, the ones that really make it, of our kind, of just ones that came from the street, from the block. You always learn to do what you was good at to get some money.
Correct.
Don't try to do what the next person doing. I never wanted to look up to this person and be like, oh, well, they're doing it. You know what I'm saying? That might not necessarily work for me. And I think, some of the younger crowd, because I love them, man. I want them to understand I don't give a fuck what y'all do.
Right.
Do what you're great at, though.
Correct.
Don't get caught in the mix on something, because like I said, you fuck around and catch yourself 50 years for some shit you was just trying out because you saw somebody else do it and you saw it work for them. If you feel like that's in you to do it, okay, cool. But I feel like 90% of the population do it because they just saw some shit.
I had a friend, it's a trip you said it, because, when you grow up in those environments, it's short term and long term, right? You see the D-boy, he's making money, the girls like it. He got in my city, he got the Chevy, he got the Mustang, he balling, he's, caking up out the pocket. 9 times out of 10, most of those dudes that I grew up with got murdered and went to jail. So they didn't have to go to college and try to do stuff, and they didn't think about, that it's a marathon, not a sprint. So I think sometimes the short-term philosophy in our environments where the quick money. I had a buddy named Leonard, who I grew up in my block in an area, Oakland, called Funktown, Murder Dubs. And square dude, beautiful mom, family, everything's good, right? He's like taken care of, wanted to be hard. You know where the story's going. Yeah. Wanted to be hard, wanted to be down, show that he's a gangster. Ended up getting caught up in some stuff. Ended up going to jail for 30-something years for shooting somebody and some drugs. His was a square. Like, his mother picked Pete. Like, you would have loved to have had his family and his mother, but he wanted to be a gangster so bad because he thought that it was cool and he would get girls. And that decision almost cost him most of his life in jail. So, you just got to make the right decision, right and left. And so, as you say, sometimes, and my partner Earl, 40 Water, he got an album called Practice Looking Hard. And some of these cats be, they practice and looking hard. They're in the mirror, want to be a gangster.
I want to talk to you about him, but I got a story for you too, man. And I feel like this, and I'm going to cut it short, quick. But, I was a former pimp, man. That was my profession. That's where I come from. I mean, shit, you from Oakland, so you should already know. It was a little bit of it around you. I mean, shit, I was waiting for one of them stories to come up, but it didn't. You know?
Shout out to my boy
but
Kenny Red.
Sure,
Kenny Red is my loved one, a
funeral.
relative. Yeah, that's my loved one.
I went and buried him in Richmond.
Oh, yeah.
I was there. I threw roses on his grave. That was a real good friend of mine, man. Yep. Like, I'm saying, I talked to him.
My girl Jody, too. Jody Mattington. Jody, she's a white, lady who has young ladies and situations, and you know what I mean? And my boy Percy, right? My boy P.
Yeah.
Percy.
But I'll tell you this, man, like, just with the game and everything, and like I said, I was former, I used to, man. It's my past. I've moved forward. But I think what it is I've learned that same with like people you say been to jail or they die. I didn't want to be either one of them, man. I had to figure out a transition because I knew if I stayed relying on just hoes, especially me getting older, man, I'ma lose.
Right. Okay.
I'ma lose, man. If that's all I'm on now, and like that's what I don't even want to deal with that no more. I don't even want to be by that no more because I know if that's all I'm relying on today in 2022, man, coming on 2023, I know I'ma lose, bro. I'ma die off.
Right,
I'm gonna
right.
die off quick.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm like, well, shit, man, I gotta make the transition somewhere for myself because that ain't where I want to be. I gotta be able to do it for myself too, man. And I've noticed a lot of people are starting to pick that up. And I just hope even some of my people from, my backgrounds or the things that I've done or we've done or just whatever the case may be can pick up something too that they love, man. I just hope that I'm a piece of inspiration to it, not failure.
Right. But I think that, I think Jay-Z talks about how you're here to discover your destiny and whatever your passion is and live that out and do that. You know what I mean? Ryan Coogler, Free Streets of Oakland, became a director. You know what I mean? Too Short, when I used to see him on the bus, he learned how to rap, and now he's turned that into being an icon. So,
Right.
no, man, I'm blessed. I'm a storyteller. I did it in magazines, newspapers, LA Times, and now I'm telling stories on TV. So,
Yeah.
same thing,
How you know E40? You say Earl.
Yeah, Earl, I'm from the Yay, and so, they say nothing but Yay flowing through my veins. I knew Earl because I used to produce the Source Hip Hop Music Awards, and so I produced Earl on that. He was doing some VO, and I just met him, because I was at the Source in the 90s, and I also produced his Unsung. If you guys are familiar with the show Unsung, I produced that about E40. I went back to Vallejo with him, and I know his family, and we're cool. And Too Short, the same thing. So, we all from the same soil. It was Earl's birthday yesterday. Shout out, happy birthday, Earl.
Hey, man.
And,
Happy birthday, man.
Earl.
You
You're getting up there, pimp, but you
Yeah.
still Charlie Hustle, though, man.
I just want you to know, even like you said, okay, that's cool. You say you're a little older than me, and I love that to death. But I always respected the ones that was older than me, Church. That's why I could sit back and even take that, even you saying that to me. But, man, shit, I'm starting to get into the veteran ranks now, man. My shit turning gray, Jack. You know what I'm saying?
I be putting the
This
the
shit-
Just for Men don't
I
really be
don't.
working, but I got to put a little bit of that. I
feel
got to
like
keep it youthful.
You know what, man? I've let my grays go because I feel like, it just shows a part of my wisdom.
Right. It's
You
true.
know what I'm saying? Like, it's just a part of my wisdom, man. Some of the things that I've been through. That's crazy that you say, man, shout out to Kenny Red. Like I said, I was just there with him. I'd seen him a while back, but I was just there, man, for his funeral, man. That was my partner. I had a hell of a day that day, too, man, trying to get there. But I made sure I made it there, man. We buried him up there in Richmond.
Yeah. Shout out to Kenny Red, one of the real ones. He's in the Too Short Unsung, talking about the peak. Because, we from the town. There's a lot of peak.
That's why I
going
say
on,
it comes with it. It just comes with it. It's culture, man. It's not because motherfuckers is glorifying that. It's just a part of the Oakland culture, and that's why I've always showed love, man. Pay homage. Like, man, shit. Kenny Red, he was one of the concrete generals.
Yes, for sure.
He
sure.
was, man. Go.
Yeah.
But for you, man, like I like where you're going with just even your mindset and how you even look at trying to, well, I'm about to do this, man. Let's do this hip hop homicide, man. Let's like really dig deep. I've already been following these stories.
Okay. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like yourself, you saying I've already been following these stories and things like that. I've been on the Tupac, the Biggie.
But it's a trip now to see. We were talking about this the other day. Hip hop is now the predominant genre, the number one genre on the planet, right? And a lot of young people today, they can't imagine a world where hip hop wasn't on the American Music Awards, why it wasn't on the Grammys, why it was on every radio station, right? I grew up in a time when hip hop was played on a Saturday from like 1 to 4 or in the morning, right? And you had to find it. And the R&B radios never played hip hop. I was at the Grammys when, Method Man was backstage or, didn't want to go to the show and boycotted, or Will Smith boycotted because they didn't want to put us
Can
on
I
the
ask
air.
you a question? That's crazy you brought him up. I want to ask you as just a real connoisseur to it and being around these high-profile people. How did you feel about Will Smith slapping Chris Rock?
You try to get me out there. I told you I'm mainstream Hollywood, man.
Just asking.
I don't want nobody.
I mean, she said you're mainstream.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, no, I
How'd
think
you feel about
I
that,
think he
man?
was totally out of pocket. You never put your hands on nobody else. I don't give a damn what you do. There's no reason, unless somebody's putting my life in jeopardy or touching my family or no loved ones, and especially as black men, we already got so many issues to deal with in Hollywood and media. And Will was out of pocket for that. He, whatever his inspiration or whatever the situation, especially on one of the biggest nights of your life, I think after that, Denzel Washington said, God's test you at those biggest moments. And I think he lost it. I've been around Will, but totally good guy. You can see from his life what he's done. We all lose it, but I think that he was totally out of pocket. And me, honestly, if Will would have put his hands on me, we toss him right there. We go for it. I'm about to get Jada too. If Jada's trying to get in, she gonna get some too.
You're
you know
not
what I mean?
a comedian, so you're
Yeah,
like,
I give
hold
a fuck.
on, man. It's
I was
like,
straight, dude. I'm like,
I'm not
hey,
gonna
man.
wow you.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna be. Did he just slap me in the face?
I
No.
mean, and maybe Chris's philosophy was like, well, I'm gonna get a check out of it later, or I'm gonna use it for leverage. But yeah, I mean, I think he was out of pocket, But again, well, don't try that on a 6'2", 240 black man.
I believe
get these
that.
hands. Yeah. 100.
I believe that this show is gonna take off in a major way, especially because you got your hands in it. Because I like your outlook to it and the way that you want to present it to the public. I just had another gentleman in here by the name of E-Love, and we was just talking about it, and I was like, he's coming out with a documentary talking about modern day slavery or modern slavery, and just things like that. And I'm like, okay, we're on to something. Everybody's trying to get because I feel like our culture, the black culture, I'm black and white, man.
Okay.
I just so just to get, our culture, I feel like we do kind of get thrown to the corner when it's deaths or, it's people that like we were talking about earlier, these people took care of families, and their family members.
Correct.
And for it to all be swept under the rug, I don't see the detective really jumping down, man, and just, going and doing it so hard as he might do for Thomas or Ralphie or, somebody in that sense. I don't really see it.
It's true.
It's a little different. I mean, we're only facing the facts here. At that point, it's no longer an opinion. This is things that we see.
Right. And one thing I'll say about that, which is the most unfortunate, is that 9 times out of 10, it's us killing us, right?
Yeah,
and
it is.
And in my mentality, you can't argue about the white man this or say the white man did that if you pull the trigger, if you killing your brothers and sisters. You
Let's
can say
talk
about
it.
the system or whatever, but you did that. You know what I mean?
There,
And so I think that-that's the negative part that we need to change. And the media obviously plays a part. You're in the media now, even though you hosting a more kind of like unorthodox show. I do think the media cares a little bit more than when I was in the 90s doing that, because I think social media has forced, like for instance, in the case of Pop Smoke and King Von, there's all these internet threads and Reddit that cover it. And so some of the stuff that was done.
Fuck Reddit.
Yeah, I don't know.
Fuck
so,
Reddit.
You fucking Reddit.
Fuck Reddit. I don't fuck with Reddit. Fuck Reddit.
Fuck Reddit. And
fuck
so,
Reddit. Reddit can suck my dick.
But some of the work that they did online helped get the information about the case and lead and get some clues. So I'm saying, I think that social media and some of these online bloggers and stuff, they may be wild and they don't always got the proof, but they definitely have helped solve shit that police could give a fuck about, right? Because these are our rap heroes. Police don't care about these guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, police don't care about them. And 9 times out of 10, somebody will put the information all up on the internet because everybody, that's a way of everybody telling these days,
Right.
The internet. The internet, and they'll tell it in so many ways, even without them saying they're telling.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Oh, I was there that night. DM me for the info. It'd be some stupid shit.
Well, what's
It'd be dumb.
When I saw Takeoff, unfortunately, the brother lost his life, somebody was filming that instead of trying to help this brother. Where does your mind come when you see this young man laying there, bleeding like that, and your first instinct is to pull out your phone?
Can I be real with you?
Yeah.
It's been going on.
Right.
Somebody I knew of in San Diego. It's like, remember when the boy got popped at the rallies? Popped at the rallies, right, in the parking lot. People are walking by filming. There's somebody standing over him.
Oh, shit.
With a phone. You know what I'm saying? And this ain't to take from Takeoff's death.
Right.
Man, R.I.P. to Takeoff. Hey, man, I've loved your music for a while, man. I watched y'all when y'all was on y'all way to blowing. I was in Tennessee watching them. So I really, in a small-ass spot. So, this wasn't you can go up and touch, it's nothing, So it's love to him. But just to show that it's been going on. It shouldn't have to take a big name. It shouldn't have to take a person that, okay, his music was loved by all. Man, this man he was loved by his family and his daughter. He left daughters behind and sons behind. That shit just goes under the rug. This shit's been going on. Let's not just wait until somebody with a big name. We need to have Takeoff's death, man, be a real lesson.
I'm not sure
of what's going on.
I don't know, brother. I don't think that people are learning. I think that it's just getting worse.
No,
Somebody
we just mourning and it's my God.
Yeah.
It's oh my God. And then
yeah.
2 weeks later we're back to fucking normal scheduled fucking programming.
Yep. So
This shit is sick.
but man, I'm glad. Like I say, you mentioned me. I want to make sure that these kind of stories get out there. And I think a lot of times we don't get to tell our own stories. As a person of color who works on shows, sometimes when people color, the people making it usually aren't people of color. Feel me?
Yeah.
Imagine if somebody was going to tell your story, and some Scottish white boy is like, "Hey, let me tell his story," and and he's like, "What?" You're like, "What? This motherfucker don't know where I'm
Right.
at." So I think it's important that people like Van and myself tell these stories. Whether it be the '90s or Suge or Tupac or Biggie or whatever stories that I've done, Dr. Dre, it makes a difference that you come talk to me and we can share a likeness because you speak a certain code and language that I might not, deal with somebody else. When we did this show, being able to go into these environments and gaining the trust of the mothers, the friends, because we got the no snitching. We ain't talking to the police, right? We ain't gonna say whatever. So I think a lot of them felt more comfortable telling their stories. And unfortunately, we had an event the other night in New York with 50 and Mona, and 50 said something which I didn't know, even though I produced the show, that there's over 600 murders connected to hip hop. And I was like, oh shit. And I was like, yeah, and he started to name them. And when I looked at it, it wasn't obviously just the rappers, but their manager or the homie or whatever. It's just, it's unfortunate. I could do 10 seasons of Hip Hop Homicides.
Speaking of other people picking up stories and saying, let me do it, as a showrunner, director, mogul, have you ever had in the industry when you're standing behind cameras, have you ever had anybody come up on you and try to kind of undermine you?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because of being black. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know about being black, but I've had
let's
situations.
be real.
Yeah. I mean, I had different kind of situations. One situation I could think about. It's so funny. I was produced a show called Who Killed Tupac on A&E with Ben Crump. Ben Crump is a lawyer for Breonna Taylor and George Floyd and Trayvon. And so we were at the studio, and Chuck D from Public Enemy was there, and he used to be it was Chuck D, Be Real, and Tom from. Anyway, it was a group. And so we went there to interview Chuck about Tupac. So Chuck is in the rehearsal room right over here, right? And he's like, did this interview because I knew him. And so he's like, let us finish whatever, and I'll get to you in a few minutes. Just hold on for like 20 minutes. So I was like, thankful that the OG, like Chuck D, said yes. And the young white boy, who I wasn't the showrunner at that time, was like, no, I don't care. We're just going to leave. And I was like, this is Chuck D, like you. But he didn't get the importance of who this man was. And Tupac, by the way, had written Chuck in jail and telling that was Tupac's hero.
He wrote a lot of people.
Yes, and
I noticed
that was his icon, Chuck D. And so the point of it is when the white boy was like, "No, we're gonna leave," I was like, "No, we ain't leaving," right? Yeah. And I was like, "We ain't leaving." And he was like, "Well, I don't care, whatever." I was like, "No, man, everybody's staying." And then he was like, "You can't talk to me that way," and I was like, "What?" And he got scared as hell, right? Because he just not from that environment, and that was my initial reaction because that's where I came from and conditioned. Do you know in that particular situation later on, the building security from the company I was working for, they tried to get security on the floor. They told me I couldn't come. They said he was afraid for his life, that I threatened him, that, I'm dangerous.
What happened to you from that shit?
No, I mean, I finished the show, but I couldn't work in that actual floor anymore because he was afraid of me.
Never put hands on the man. Never insinuated that you even had a problem with him.
But that was disrespectful in that moment. So you asked me a situation. Has there been a situation where somebody was out of pocket?
Yeah.
He was totally out of pocket. Me and Suge got at it a few times because Suge, if you look at some of the cover stories, Suge would say stuff, Eddie Murphy, Michael Jackson, Prince, he was saying all kind of, you don't know the history, but Suge was out of pocket saying some of the stuff he said.
Well, tell us about the history.
And so he just,
come on.
He used his pulpit to disrespect, like he was saying he was the most gangsterous. And I didn't think it was appropriate for him to be saying that stuff. And if I put it in print and in a magazine out to the world, that's giving it credibility, right? And so me challenging him, like, yo, that's not cool, was problematic. He liked it, I think, that somebody wasn't afraid of him, but I guess he didn't like being censored. And so we got into it a couple of times, and I think we respect each other now, and it's good, and I'm praying for him where he's at, and obviously, some of his life decisions put him in that situation. But yeah, I had beef. Me and Method Man almost got into it one time because I think he thought, I'm a writer, hip-hop writer, and I was a punk. And I'm like, nah, homie, you ain't gonna get all crazy with talking to me like that. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I'm just careful. I don't have no beef with people, but, if something starts, then we're gonna have to,
So you saying you like working with people. You know, but you can get where people could take their star power and try
Yes,
to
of course.
overpower.
Yeah, it's Hollywood. Come on,
It's Hollywood. Motherfuckers gonna try to take their star power and try to overpower.
And that could be hip hop, fucking R&B. It could be a white movie or whatever. And you always got to treat people with respect and whatever else. And you don't ever want to do that. So that's all I'm about. Just people with respect, and don't use your place. You know, it's funny because when I was at the LA Times back in the day, when I was covering a lot of hip hop and murder and all that
LA
kind of
Times
stuff.
is a big magazine.
No, newspaper.
Very big magazine.
Newspaper.
Or newspaper rather. Excuse me. Yes, newspaper.
Yeah.
But that nonetheless, that was a very grown newspaper to be fucking with.
And at the time, it was a trip because there was a writer, my boy Chuck Phillips, who I love. You know, good guy. He did some kind of reporting that was a little questionable, but he could write whatever. White boy. If I wrote something, Billy Johnson, my homeboy, my publicist, is a writer from Rap Pages, known each other. They don't care about him, but when they see me, they're like, "Yo, what's up? I heard you." Like, there's an approach to me as a black man in hip hop that they would have given to the white boy, whatever, right? Because it's still, they think that if I say something as a writer, if I don't, review their album correctly, they can step to me, which is not. It should never be that way. I'm a cultural critic. Like, if you don't like what I wrote, they don't give you a reason to like beat me up or try to.
You being a
me.
writer, is this? Could we say that we can consider some of the things that you've been a part of? Short films, because I noticed that a lot of writers that are writers, they'll start to jump into short films. Do you feel like you've transitioned and grown to something like that?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've already been. As I mentioned in the '90s, I started at LA Times, and I think that's where I met Billy. And then obviously I went to the Source, as the first West Coast editor of the Source. So I went from print journalism to producing documentaries, American Gangster, Unsung, whatever.
Right,
so yes,
right.
I still, but it's still me telling a story.
Yeah.
It's the same thing because a rapper is a storyteller too, right? And so whatever I put on TV is the same shit that I put in a newspaper or in a magazine. I'm just using a camera now, right? So I'm still telling you a story in the same form. So yeah, I mean, that's the day. I mean, newspapers is dead, magazines is print, whatever.
Right.
That's the new hustle.
It's interesting to talk to a real writer, like, because y'all start to like hop into, like I said, short story, short film type of ordeals. Not even have to be documentary style, but it could be just like this. For instance, like my buddy, he wrote like a real horror, gory one, but it's real short, but it's sweet.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Gets down to the meat and potatoes of the situation, man. There's real great writers out there, and I noticed that y'all tried to, like, all right, I've done this, I've wrote for this, like now it's time to maybe bring my words to life.
Right.
And
no, it's good. It's good that I was able to transition from that world into television and film. And I think a lot of the people from my generation, the 90s hip hop and early 2000s have now went into that. One of my boy, Carlito, worked on Empire. My boy Selwyn, he was in a bunch of stuff. And, so a lot of us from that time, Billy, my boy is doing publicity. But I'm just a storyteller, man. You know that little kid that was in your hood and be like the ghetto reporter? They'd be like, "Oh yeah, I saw Keisha. Keisha left with Tyrone. Oh man, the last Thursday he owed him $300. I had the glasses. I peep game. So I've always been like a ghetto reporter.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, you've worked with BET, right?
Yeah.
You've done things like that. I mean, I wouldn't want to say that's ghetto.
No, but I'm saying when I came up, I was in an urban environment and I was just reporting what was going on.
That's the best.
Yeah, but I'm saying now,
it's the fucking best.
Now I'm on
real.
mainstream television, A&E, and VH1 and whoever else, but it's still the same thing.
But a lot of people were afraid to tell them stories. You ever notice that? Like, for real, a lot of people were, I'm not going to go there to go tell them. So, like, you lived in it.
Right. But I think that it's good that, FBG Duck, who you mentioned, who got shot in the Gold Coast, we went to Chicago, talked to his family, his mother, and, we went to O Block because I don't know if you know, but people in Chicago know, Tuckerville and O Block are like at war. Like in Chicago, these motherfuckers been killing each other for GDs, BDs, whatever. And so going to O Block, where our brothers and sisters, like a block or two divides you. I don't know if you know about Chicago.
Yeah,
like
I'll stay there a little bit.
There's people who can't go past that block their whole life. And if they get caught slipping, that's whatever. So it took people like me and Van to go there and kind of have a pass and be able to walk in there and tell those stories, because those are still beautiful people, right? They're just in the hood. They might be in a project. That don't mean that their lives aren't valid, that they're not important. It's just that the government and the media has told you to be afraid of these people. I never want to get to the place where I'm afraid of my own people. I still got to be smart, but I want to make sure we tell our stories. You know what I mean? Sidney Poitier, somebody like that, Harry Belafonte. These are the guys that I look up to. Chuck D, folk like that, who are doing it. Reggie Hudlin. You know what I mean? So it takes us to tell, like right today, you got a whole podcast, you're doing your shit, you telling stories of the culture, right? You using a mic.
Yeah.
You was using your mouthpiece when you was, with the P.
Yeah, for
you know
sure.
what I mean? And so you just took that mouthpiece that you had and, you know what I mean? Tweaked it.
Man,
And you ain't got to deal with a jail sentence afterwards.
I've considered myself, which I'm gonna write a book, from pimping to potting. Man, and just sitting back, man.
Pimping to potting. That's gonna be the title of your book.
Yeah, chopping it up, man, and just things I've done seen, man. Things that just my experiences, man. And I just hope people can take something from.
But I think if you see the game, I could only imagine if I look back at your life and I put a camera on a lens from the little 20-year-old you to the man that you are today. There's probably some great stories.
One of my friends actually did.
Okay.
A man by the name of Michael Maroy. He used to actually do Too Real for TV.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever heard of it before, but the name it's moved around. I mean, shit, he's done some dope things. Like, and he's captured us, and he captured me a while back in one of his videos that me and him we had captured some years ago when I was young. Me and a red Chevelle. It actually, man, shot up today.
Okay.
Because it's from back then. People want to see, and he passed away. You know what I'm saying? Michael Maroy passed away, man. Shout out to him, man. I'm gonna love him to death. He's seen it then, like, so people were capturing, and they were way ahead of their time then. He's put out DVDs. This is when DVDs,
Not the DVDs.
Man, he would chop and clip and edit his own things, man, and put them out, man, and sell them, and people would buy them.
Yeah.
So it's. This shit is just to see how far it's came. Like,
I think
people
the internet,
been on this shit.
I think the internet has really helped people who didn't have the cameras and big money. You don't need all of that now.
But it has detoured true vision, I feel like. Because, now everybody, they give you all the help on phones and on cameras and all the extra shit. Back then, motherfucker had to kind of do what they do. You had to kind of catch it for what you caught it as, or even when you wrote things, like you had to write it for what you wrote it. You didn't have really no help. And these 7-8 people, or, let me see what this person wrote on their story. No, fuck that. This is my story. This is something I believe in. It's just different today, man. We live in a different era where people kind of, we do rely on the internet for everything.
Well, I think that the instantaneousness of what happens now, P&B Rock, people had video from that within seconds, or it's up on the internet. When we used to write these stories in the Source or, Vibe or whatever, it would take months before the story come out, right? You wouldn't even be able to know this story, and you didn't have the ability to DM Rihanna or send or send a text message to her. So I think that it's good that the internet has helped and we got these cheaper cameras, but I do think I think it's bad. It's too much access. It's created too much access to the internet.
Well, to me, it's cut out, and I said this earlier, it cut out the manpower. It cut out like the man doing the work.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? For it. You know what I mean? Now it's all at the click of a button, man. Like, what do you do? How do you beat that? How do you beat that?
Information can be powerful. Information can be problematic, in my opinion.
But for everybody that's on the internet, they feel like every bit of information that's on there is truth.
It's not truth. Yeah.
And it's not truth, man.
And by the way, our show, one of the things that we wanted to do is dispel internet rumors and really get to it and actually talk to the real people, because people could just post to whatever and say whatever. It's interesting to see Kanye unravel, and obviously Kyrie got into trouble for something he did on the internet, right? Because he posted a link to this video that people considered anti-Semitic.
Yes.
And really, what you do and say online can affect your life and career. Kyrie just lost, a bunch of money. Kanye lost hundreds of millions of dollars for what he said and shit that he wrote on the internet. By the way, it was no problem when he was threatening his wife and doing whatever. When he said something about, they thought was anti-Semitic, then it was immediately something. So I want to make sure, you say this shit about the wrong person, then it said something. But you could say whatever else before that, and it'd be no problem. He wanted to kill Pete. You know what I mean? And he was like threatening Pete on the internet and all kind of wildness.
You feel like we're controlled? Do you feel like we're really censored?
I work in the media, man. So I'm gonna be like
You should
Dave
know
Chappelle.
censorship.
You saw Dave Chappelle on Saturday
Was
Night Live,
outstanding.
and the first thing he said, "I like to read
Outstanding.
a statement." You know, my brothers, it just isn't.
Yeah.
He got it out the way
got it
off
out the
top,
way.
right? He's like, "I want to make sure you know I have love for you." Then he went into the whole shit and kept it real.
Hey, I'll tell you this: if I could ever get Dave Chappelle up here, like I'm gonna tell you this, man. Like that dude right there is iconic.
Yes.
And just the way he tells his jokes, he just stands up there, smokes, and is honest about his It's all opinions. Now, whether people gravitate towards that opinion to make it fact is on them.
Right.
You cannot always blame the messenger.
Right.
Because those people have a choice to choose what they believe and what they don't believe. It goes back to the internet. People sit on there, they believe it because they feel like that's just what's in their face now.
Right. Yeah, so
It's just-
unfortunately the freedom of the speech part is what I don't
It's
like.
gone. It's
and
gone.
I think,
It's gone.
he immediately was vilified again by different people about what he said, but nothing he said was not true, right? It's just, can you say that? You just had a xenophobic far-right president who said all kind of crazy madness to everybody, handicapped people, Sleepy Joe, people was ugly. He was a thug. People don't realize, did he ever get canceled? Did he ever lose hundreds of millions? No, he got more money. So there is a double-edged sword where the white man, Donald Trump, can be off the chain and say whatever, and a young black guy, Kanye or Kyrie, no matter how you feel about what they said, immediately is vilified.
Right, because it's not about the topic about what they said. It's just what does it fall in the same magnitude?
Right.
And they did.
Right. And they
You're
got
right
canceled. They got
about
canceled.
that.
Yeah,
You're
they got
right
canceled.
about that. It still fell in the same magnitude. It's not about what was said. It could have been two totally different things. These motherfuckers fell on level 10.
Yeah.
Both of them.
And they're black. Yeah, and so make sure you got that part right. So, I don't know. It's just a crazy world. So I'm smart about what I say, but a lot of what...
No,
they
you're
say-
very smart
you
in
gotta
how
be
you
careful.
move. Very strategic.
Yeah.
Militant. I like that.
In the words of my brother O'Shea, it's chestnut checkers, pimp. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's definitely a marathon, not a sprint, If I was in the short term, I would have sold crack in 86 and then thought I was going to bubble when I've been in jail in 91 trying to get my life right.
Well, you probably would have bubbled, but yeah, probably would have died out about 91,
you
92.
Most drug dealers don't get fat and move to Miami, right? They either
No.
in jail or dead. Very
But
few
that's
get
the
away,
slogan.
right?
But that's the slogan.
What?
Is what do hustlers do, man? When they retire and get fat, move to Miami.
It don't happen that much, though, right?
It don't
How many
happen
pimps
much.
that you know that really made it to the finish line without going to jail from some period or something getting caught or whatever?
And I think everybody. Let me tell you something, homie, and I'm gonna be all the way 1,000 with you.
1,000. Wow.
If anybody that's went to jail behind that, myself included, just being involved or just ties and allegedly whatever, man, when you get out or just anything like that, you gotta like it. Whether you still do it for a little while or not, you have to find your transition. You feel it in your gut.
Okay.
You feel it in your gut, man. You cannot be stuck on it. Because if you do and you fixate on it, man, guess what? You're gonna find yourself in a jail cell. I think that's with anything.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Whether it's selling drugs, anything that our government would consider illegal. You have to remember, man, they make the rules. These were never rules that were set forth. These are rules that are made.
Right.
This was never a problem. And like I said, man, for the record, retired. I don't fuck with it no more. I'm out of it. But I've only noticed that they only start fucking with it when they start seeing, they stereotyped it, right? They thought that it was platforms or room living or, everybody's on drugs or things like that. And they start seeing the motherfucker having 7 houses and, 8, 9, 10 different cars and he's having things in different states and he's got bitches here and there. Right. Oh man, that's a problem. He didn't touch over $2-3 million that year or whatever that man did. Whatever. Because I don't know. I'm just putting a cap on it because I know it's there. People have done that in their life. You know what I'm saying? So to see that, that's what I think made it a problem.
Right, okay.
Was, okay, this some real shit. It's nothing to laugh at no more. See, pimping and horror, just the game in general was, it was a laughing matter. That's why they made fun of it on TV or you'd see it in movies. And every time you saw it, it was in a comedy setting. They want to play it. They want to play it in a comedian mix. Not Cat Williams. I don't think that's what it was. I don't think he painted that narrative. I'm just talking about like more people like in movies from like early movies. They always put something in it of just some bullshit. Fucking platforms and shit like that, the big hats, the money
The pimp
signs.
caricature,
Like
the
I
caricature
don't
of a
like
pimp,
that
yeah,
shit.
okay.
Like that's just that's what they try to paint it to you as, and then when they actually seen that there were some people that actually lived off it or just took care of their kids, and their kids went to school and college and things off that, man, they had a better life and they may have
became a real
started
career,
a
right?
business.
Yeah, right,
Then they
right.
started a better business and they got it. Yeah, it just became something to where they wanted to stop. Oh, hold on, we
Right.
got to tax you.
Right.
Look what they did with weed.
Right. No, it's a trip to see.
Look at what they did with weed.
How
It was
penalized it is back from then, and now when the white companies ain't nobody going to jail. That's how it is, though.
They figure
Yeah,
it out, man. Now that's why I think they had just passed a law to where anybody that's ever fucked with, like, anybody got any type of felonies off weed, shit like that, man, they getting released.
Yeah, which is thank God. Finally happened. Right?
Thank
Yeah,
God, man. But think about the people that have served years, man, before that. Do they get any compensation or they just get out?
You're lucky to be alive, right? And not in jail.
I get it. It's sad because another motherfucker argue that point down and get 10, 20 million.
Right. No, it's true. It's true.
Let's be real.
Yeah, but man, thank God you made it out of that, and you're here.
I'm
doing,
here.
Legal
hey,
paper.
Man. Hey,
legal
man,
paper.
I'm here. I'm having a genuine conversation with you, man. We chopping it up. This is where I like to be, man. I found my calling.
Yeah, you legit now.
I found my calling.
Right,
It feel good because I never knew what that was like in my life, man.
Mm-hmm.
And I ain't never did no funny business, no nothing. And I probably done been down more than I've been up.
Right.
But I stayed down for it, man. I'm here today. I love what I do. That's where I'm at, man. Sharp Time.
Yeah, you blessed. You sipping mo and kicking back smoking.
I mean, shit, I was doing that. I was doing that before all this, but to be able to keep it in the mix,
yes,
it's
right.
definitely a plus.
It's a beautiful thing, right?
It's a plus
and there's no jail cell waiting for you at the end of the night.
One question, man. One question before we get up out of here, because I gotta ask this one for you because you intrigue me as a real solid individual, producer, director, writer. That writer I feel like really stands strong with you. What can we see, Frank, next 5 years?
No, Jerry Bruckheimer is sort of my role model in terms of he goes back and forth to film and television. Jerry Bruckheimer is a big time producer.
Yeah.
Tyler Perry has done a lot. You can call me the hip hop Tyler Perry. So we want to be able to put out more content.
Big statement.
Yeah, and so I think we want to be able to own more of our content. We want to be able to film it at places that we own. We want to, at least, big companies are profiting off our stories. I wish there was an Instagram or a Facebook that we own. Think about how much revenue they make off us. So, I got a big doc. Hopefully, a Busta Rhymes maybe pop up doc coming out. I got a Roger Troutman project in the mix, and probably hopefully more seasons of Hip Hop Homicides and some other cool shit happening, man. I'm just gonna keep telling these stories, trying to get my own facility, and not have to rent from the white man much longer, or the white woman, whatever. So
let me tell you something. I think that should be any man's goal at the end of the day, and even that person or them people should never take, or just your people should never take that person.
When you go to Atlanta
never be
and
personal.
you see Tyler Perry's building and the reality of what he's done, it's unbelievable and extremely inspiring. You know what I mean?
He's got like Tyler Perry Studios Drive.
Yeah, no, he has
got his own fucking,
he took
exit.
a military base and bought his studio is bigger than most Hollywood studios altogether. That is the power of how our stories are loved and how he thought of as an entrepreneur. And you're a player, right? Because you come from the life. It's better to be what? The pimp than the hoe, right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
But we got to still learn how to work together somehow.
Yeah, but
hey, at the end of the day, we got to still learn how to work together somehow.
It's true, but
it goes together.
You don't want to be hoeing for life. You might hoe a little bit to get to where you got to get to.
I'll tell you this. That's what I was trying to tell you earlier. I didn't want to pimp for life.
Right. But you can now take your destiny. You're pimping now, right? You're pimping your own life. You're taking your legacy.
Yeah.
You're taking advantage of your opportunities. It's a different kind of pimping, right?
Yeah.
I pimp in Hollywood with TV and movies. I ain't, pimping nobody.
I pimp a podcast. I'm not pimping anybody. I'm just pimping podcasts with cameras and mics and
Same thing, man.
people
Same
running
thing.
the board. I
There
mean,
we go.
shit. We all just I guess we pimping it on up here. I guess I don't know. We all just working.
It's a different level of the game,
we
man.
all just working. Frank, I appreciate you, man,
My
for
brother.
coming,
Yeah.
sitting down with me. Man, we need to do some work in the future.
Yeah, you need to do some more voiceover work. You got that voice.
Let me know.
You just be using it for the ladies. You might get some
Let me
paper
know.
for it. You know what I mean?
Hey, man, let me know.
Yeah,
we can
but check
always
out,
sit down and work.
Check out our show every Thursdays, Hip Hop Homicides, hosted by Van Lathan,
Yes, sir.
executive produced by 50 Cent, Mona Scott, myself. Airing on Mondays on All Black, and so it should be good stuff.
Shout out to Van Lathan.
Shout out to Van.
That's my motherfucking guy right there, man. I talk to him. He just an overall, like me and him, we have these kind of conversations. That's why I felt like this is fitting. Because when me and Van sit down, like, yeah, we shoot the shit, and he tells me, oh, Sharp, I like when you go in on people's shit, but we still got down to the meat and potatoes, and like, we always get to what the fuck's wrong with society conversation. You know what I'm saying?
Like, we got to fix it. It's up to us.
It's up to us,
man.
man.
To try to make changes.
It's up to us. I appreciate you for coming, loved one.
Appreciate it.
Hey, man, hopefully we can catch back up soon, go do some dinner, something, man. Just let me know, man, when you touch the city. We in the same city. We're going to sit down
I'm
and
down
get
the
some
street,
meat.
so yeah, you know, keep it P.
Yeah, we're going to sit down,
I'm P
man.
Frank, and so I love that you keep it P.
Yeah, we're going to keep it P. P as in podcasting. The Sharp Tank.
Yada, town business.
No jumper. Sharpest, coolest podcast in the world. We out of here, man. Hey, Riley, shoot us out the gym.